All right, we'll take you live to Cape Town. Our reporter Samkele Maseko standing by. Samkele, are you there?
Yes, indeed, Francis, I'm here. And
great. So let's start with the significance. We're talking about the fact that this won't be in Parliament, but in the City Hall. That's where Nelson Mandela came out and gave that victorious speech after being released. So firstly, do you think the President will draw on some of that history tomorrow?
Essentially, Francis, as the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, not as President of the country, has addressed at the cathedral before, trying to invoke the memories that the ANC has when it comes to the cathedral, with former President Nelson Mandela addressing there alongside of him when he was part of the steering committee of former President Nelson Mandela. But his address at the cathedral comes at a time, if you remember last year at the State of the Nation address, he called the rebirth of South Africa, and saying that after the devastating year that the country has had due to the effects of COVID-19 ravaging the economy of the country, crippling all economic activity, and some businesses failing to reopen their doors that post this serious lockdown, the country needed to buckle down and to get down to its knees and to working for a better future and for economic growth. That has not really happened in a sense of true of the word. There have been a number of challenges, such as the arrest of former President Zuma, that caused the unrest in provinces such as KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng. You've seen the high panel expert report speaking about the failures of a cabinet, the executive, failures of the state security agency, failures of all the security cluster ministers, and a lack of communication, and some ministers working in silos, as per the report of the high panel, speaks to the inefficiencies of this administration led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. He also has to speak at a time where last year in SONA, he spoke about how Eskom had been unbundled to 3 different parts, which includes distribution, transmission, and generation, and how they are fixing the old coal fleet of Eskom to be more reliable when it comes to energy generation. But just this course of the week and over the weekend, we had a load shedding at stage 2 within the country, which tells you about the inefficiencies and the failures of the power utility to ensure energy security in the country, which further hampers and destroys any economic growth prospects that the government would want to achieve under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Okay, Samkele, you've painted a pretty bleak picture. From those you've spoken to, what are the expectations specifically around the report into the July unrest, which says a cabinet should be held accountable, like you talk about those contradictory statements from ministers? Many in this country ask, will anyone ever be fired? How head on is the president expected to address those incredible findings, saying that it goes all the way up to the top echelons of government?
Essentially, Francis, you've got a president whom sits in Mahlambandu in the union buildings, who tends to kick the can downstream. For instance, you look at the redeployment of Maseko, who is now the Speaker of the National Assembly. She was the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans in the country. She had not been fired in a sense, but rather redeployed the head, Madam of the House, in the National Assembly, which went down in January, allegedly in the hands of Christmas Maseko, who is currently going through litigation by the state and has been denied bail. We've also got Ayanda Dlotlo, who's the former State Security Minister, who's been redeployed to public administration and service in the country. And you've got a Minister of Police, Begitele, whom is at loggerheads with the Commissioner of Police, Ketlas Tole, to which further causes a crisis when it comes to safety and policing within the country. You look at how the police are non-existent when allegedly black people were butchered in the hands of Indians within the Phoenix community, which is the words of Sihle Ziganala in saying that there was a massacre of black people within that area of Phoenix in KwaZulu-Natal. You look at how trucks were burned. You look at how state security within that high panel report was alerted of the dangers of the arrest of former President Zuma, and how the ANC has become a security threat to the country, which is the party that the president of the country currently leads as president of the ANC. It also speaks about how state security was afraid to intervene when it came to the issues of intelligence that was gathered at the time of the unrest leading up to the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma, and how they were fearful of acting on those intelligence reports that they had received on the fear that they would be seen to be meddling in the politics of the country. You do know the allegations of how state security has been used to fight factional battles of the ANC. And in particular, you've got a president of the country who, in that leaked audio recording, which was leaked to the Inside Factor, has said that some were using slush funds of the state security ill-gotten gains in order to win factional battles within the ANC. And the slush funds that were allegedly used, which were revealed in the State Capture Commission, led by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. So it paints a bleak future on the capacity of the state. In the words of President Cyril Ramaphosa, he says that the State Capture Commission has indeed established that there was state capture in the country, and the institutions of state were weakened, with the South African Revenue Services targeted, which they say that former President Jacob Zuma aided and abetted the private sector in capturing and weakening of the South African Revenue Services. You go to how the National Prosecuting Authority was hollowed out, and the state investigative capacity was tremendously diminished, with the state law enforcement agencies not being able to swoop on those whom are highly politically connected in the country, and which effectively also saw that a recommendation that a scorpions-like institution of law enforcement must then be instituted again, which was headed by Hone Cornier, who has since resigned from that particular institution. So when it comes to law enforcement agencies and how you reposition the South African Revenue Services, you've got Edward Kitswater, who is currently the commissioner at SARS, who's trying to fix that particular institution, which, in the words of the State Capture report, was heavily weakened. You go to the report on Denel as well, which is the state's arms company, which at times has failed to pay salaries. You go to the report at Transnet, which links people like Brian Molefe, Anuj Singh, a former Minister of Public Enterprises, Malusi Kigaba, the likes of Siyabonga Gama, as the enablers of state capture. When you also look at how the Passenger Rail Agency, through Sifwambo as well, has had many issues, particularly when it comes to the purchase of locomotives, and the testimony that people like Lucky Montana gave at the State Capture Commission. You've got issues facing the likes of Machela Koko when it comes to Eskom, and how Eskom today is still battling with energy generation, which is a problem to the South African economy. But the president also had a dream 2 years ago when it comes to the development of new smart cities. For the first time since the dawn of democracy, that the democratic government has not built a new city. They, in turn, now want to build new smart cities. You've got one in Gauteng, which is in Lansera, which President Ramaphosa spoke about. And you've got another one which has been launched in Port Alfred in KwaZulu-Natal, between the coastline of the Eastern Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal, between Margate and Mbizana, Port Alfred, that area. We saw the launch of that smart city earlier on in the late last year by President Ramaphosa, with the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Sihle Khuzeni Zigalala, and Oscar Mabuyane, and also the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and the Minister of Human Settlements, Mamloko Kupai, which tells you that there are plans afoot to make sure that you regain economic growth through infrastructure development, which is currently headed by Dr. Kosiyato Ramaphosa in the office of the President.
Okay, so Samkele, so that would be the good news, the positive focus, but you've laid out many of the very heavy issues weighing on the President's minds, on the minds of many South Africans. From what some people have said on our Twitter account tonight, a lot of you thinking just about the recent attacks. And yes, what we saw in July exposed the lack of capacity in the state, certainly in the SAPs, to deal with that, and concerning intelligence as well, and many of us are hoping to hear reassuring words about our safety, in fact.